right, good morning, everybody. Hope everybody is healthy and safe, and I wanted to share that same sentiment with our families. Our families, our students and employees are safe and healthy at home. We are thinking about you and definitely working hard to support our kids throughout this community as we prepare for our work with non-traditional instruction. So today we wanted to provide you with some updates of where we are on NTI, non-traditional instruction, and the supports we're going to provide to our teachers and our students and our families moving forward. We know we have one more week next week, which is the traditional spring break week. It feels a lot different than what we were expecting spring break to be, but we do have one more week to prepare for NTI, which will kick off on April 7th officially for students, April 6th for our employees to prepare for that second day. So a little bit about NTI first of all. NTI legislation was passed several years ago in the state of Kentucky, and it was never meant to be the type of instruction that would be ongoing for many weeks, possibly even months. NTI was really established, I believe officially in legislation in 2014, to allow districts who had a lot of snow days or inclement weather days to use up to 10 to support at-home learning. But that platform was really meant to be a few days at a time, and then when kids would be able to come back in school and interact with staff. So it wasn't necessarily meant to be the type of instruction that would be ongoing. However, we know with our current crisis that we had to take this on and develop a platform and supports for students and for teachers to prepare and help our kids achieve during this difficult time, and we wanted to do that. So about 12 days ago, I developed two task forces that we put together. One task force was really around developing this platform, how we're going to support students, how we're going to support teachers, how we're going to provide services to kids that usually get those at school, and then also how we can do things like provide access to kids and paper packets if needed for those that don't have the digital access. The second task force was really around providing Chromebooks and other devices to kids, and also exploring ways to provide internet access to those families that have not had those. And so we're working hard to develop those. It's still a lot of work going on. A difficult part of this, we can't come together in person. So the work that is taking place right now virtually, I've been extremely impressed with the hard work that is taking place, and I can't thank the employees in JCPS who are working diligently every single day to develop this and get this ready. And that goes from leadership on my team, and you'll hear from a couple of them today, to technical support. People are working very hard. Principals are out there developing these pages for their staff and working hard at that. Other administrators are doing the same thing. And then we know we have teachers all over this district who are working right now to prepare for this and engaging with their kids. And then we have services that are being provided, from record number of meals being provided to kids. And we'll highlight some of those things and many others. So great work is taking place right now. NTI is going to be difficult. There is no doubt about it. We are not able to meet in person. We are not able to gather as teams, obviously, to prepare for this. NTI will be implemented with teachers being at home, principals being at home, and all of this taking place virtually. So it's going to be a challenge. But a couple of things we've challenged our schools to do to prepare for NTI, or what I would call principles, the way we want this to work. Number one, first of all, we want to err on the side of supporting students. So every decision that we make is out there to support students, student learning. First of all of student and employees' health and wellness, but definitely err on the side of student support. Second of all, our NTI plan is going to be built all around flexibility. So this is not necessarily going to be the 7:40 to 2:20 or the 9 a.m. To 4 p.m. type of school. We're going to provide a whole lot of flexibility where students can log on or do the work at various times throughout the day, and the same with our teachers. Flexibility is really going to be key to this. We know that we're going to have a lot of our households who have multiple students in a house, and they might only have one device. And so having that flexibility where students can work at various times during the day and on the weekends is going to be extremely important to both our students and our staff. So providing that opportunity for flexibility, and then really a focus on communication. And so we have a lot of staff members, classified and certified, who might be working in schools that we're going to be giving various assignments to, and most of all, those are going to be around communicating with kids and families. So we want to do our best to over-communicate, if that's even possible, but those are the principles that we're really working on with NTI, is no matter whether that's online learning or with paper-type packet work, that's what we're really working towards. You're going to see the website that we've put together. It's a one-stop shop place for students, for teachers, and for parents to provide all the supports. The work that has gone into this in about 2 weeks is unbelievable, and I'm really proud of that work. And I will say, I think this is going to be a model that far exceeds most large districts. We've looked at many, and we're very proud of this, and we think we're well ahead of others. The second of all, when we come out the other side of this, we think this is going to be a platform that actually moves us forward, that we can use this platform for interventions with students, additional learning and support. Teachers can communicate with students in various ways and provide work and lessons for students if they are absent or need additional support. So we're very proud of what we've developed to this point. We know over the next 12, 13 days we've got a lot of work to do. We also know it's going to be a little messy when we get this kicked off. But we're going to be here. We're going to have great opportunities for parents and families to communicate and work with us in order for us to be successful. A couple things. First of all, I'll kick off the virtual tour of our website in just a second so that you can see this platform and the supports that we're providing. But we will also, we're working hard right now to provide as closely as possible supports, especially in math, English, science, and social studies, for those kids who don't have connectivity at home or a device, and that we can provide multiple weeks of work without having significant interactions, obviously, with families. We want to follow guidance from the governor and the mayor. But we will have these paper copies available at our emergency food sites throughout the district. So parents and families can pick those up, and we're also working on a plan where we can mail them to families as well. So a lot of logistics still to work out in that part. We're working on that. But we want to provide both platforms, the online platform and the actual paper copies for students, so that learning can take place. And as you can imagine, that's not easy. So we will kick off. First of all, I'd like you to see we have on our portal so many videos and training opportunities for teachers, students, and parents, so that they have that information. We have about a 2.5-minute video that I'd like to kick off with. This will be on the portal. So if families, teachers, staff want to see this, they can. But this gives a quick overview of the portal, and then I'll walk through some of the specifics before I turn it over to a couple of others. So could we go ahead and start that video, please?
The Jefferson County Public Schools NTI Support Portal, where you can gain access to the Teacher Toolkit, the Student Toolkit, and the Parent and Guardian Toolkit, as well as access to individual school NTI portals and the Technical Support button, where you can request support on a number of technical issues. In the NTI Parent Guardian Toolkit, you will also notice access to individual school portals and, coming soon, a live virtual training support schedule to support parents with at-home learning, as well as an instructional toolkit for parents that has links to several of our core instructional tools, digital backpack support tools, and additional apps and resources that parents may find beneficial, including the Parent's Guide to Google Classroom tutorial, which has also been translated into several languages to support parents. This concludes your tour of the JCPS NTI support page.
So that showed the parent version of the support. So there will be actual training online training for parents. I know this journey of providing instruction at home is new for parents. More than anything, I think it will show everyone the value of the teacher and how important they are. But we want to be there to support our students. So a couple of things I just wanted to highlight on each of the pages. So as you can see, this will be the opening page as a parent logs on to, or a teacher, to our NTI instructional page with a lot of information. And then when we click right into the content section, we have a teacher toolkit, a student toolkit, and a parent and guardian toolkit for all of our stakeholders that are involved. So we'll start with the teacher toolkit, and I won't highlight it all, but you can see, as you can see, there are various resources throughout that. So all types of resources. Also, the Google, if we'll scroll just back up a little bit, you can see that we have links to Google, how to use Google Classroom, which 97% of our teachers are trained in Google Classroom and will be the primary place where instruction will occur. We have Google Meet, where teachers can meet with their students and plan scheduled classes. We also have a couple other options, whether that be video use to create videos to post on their page, or also Google Hangout to make phone calls from teachers to students. A lot of opportunities there. We can go back now with the teacher. So we'll have teachers looking through that as well. And then for the parent toolkit, and the video highlighted a lot of the parent toolkit, but there's a lot of how-to videos that you will see there. And then also I just wanted to go back up 2 buttons, specifically technical support. If parents need technical support, we have that opportunity for them. And then right up above, we haven't loaded it yet, but the virtual support schedule will give opportunities for parents from home to have some interaction and videos to train and support our parents. And those will be filled and with all of these options. And then finally, for our students, if we click on our student button, the student toolkit, once again, options for students, the same technical support, but I did want to highlight the school NTI portals. So this is where our students and our parents have access to this too. Right now, all of our schools are loading this, so our administrators, our principal are working hard to load this. We have one that's loaded already, School Portland, and so we'll click on that, and this is what students and families will see. They will have every single teacher that is loaded at the school. There is a click for an email address to contact, and then when a student or a parent clicks on each teacher, the teacher will be able to provide instructions to the student on assignments and things. And then we will also have a button clearly where students can click into their JCPS Google Classroom to interact with teachers and get all the services that are provided. So as you can see, it's one place. There's much more than that, but this will be live this afternoon, and we will continue to build it. So over the next 7 to 10 days, you'll see a lot of additions to that, and as we move forward throughout our NTI plan. But this is the place where people can begin to start looking at this and find the supports that they need to help their child, students to do their work, and then the teachers also plenty of support opportunities as well. This is something that we plan on continuing to work on even after the coronavirus has passed, and we look into next year how we can use this to support our kids even better. And so the leader of this task force that really put together the content is Dr. Carmen Coleman. She has worked hours and hours and hours to help support this and put together an incredible team, and so I can't thank her enough. So I'd like to bring up Dr. Coleman to share some of the details of the work that they've done around curriculum.
All right, thank you. Good morning. So we've had a vision in JCPS for creating meaningful and relevant learning. We knew that had to continue as we developed our plan to teach students remotely. We constructed an online portal that gives teachers the opportunity to create innovative and interactive classrooms online. In the end, we know teachers will be able to connect with students like never before. Our platform is designed to let schools maintain their unique spirit while being grounded in fundamental instruction. Students will be able to select their teacher from the portal and go directly to their instruction for the day. We also knew our remote learning couldn't only live online. We had to have options for our families who have been thrown into this whole new reality that we are all adjusting to. 2 weeks' worth of work has been developed in the form of what we call a choice board. This is an all-new board with different activities and projects grounded in content that will be available for students to pick up at our emergency food sites. Starting on Monday. We will have more all-new materials available in hard copy for students at our food sites after spring break.
Thank you, Dr. Coleman. So the work we're doing around NTI is really built on providing resources for our teachers and our students to use the various software platforms that we have. So you'll see a lot of work with on our platform around software packages like Study Island and Admetum, which are built lessons that are built around Kentucky standards. Teachers will be using that. Some of the content curriculum resources we provide, and then obviously teachers and schools creating this themselves. And so trying to standardize it, but also allowing our teachers to have the flexibility to create new content has been so important to us. And so as you can see, the virtual space is so important, and getting as many kids on this virtual platform as possible with the major challenge that we have right now in this community and many others across this country. And so most large urban school districts are fighting the same battle. So I've had conversations with other superintendents. And that big challenge is we have this divide, and it's really around this opportunity gap, which was my major concern when taking on NTI, was how we provide instructional resources and the supports that kids have when we have a digital divide where so many students have devices and internet and many students don't have those devices. So we have been working extremely hard to find ways to bridge that digital divide, specifically with getting Chromebooks to our kids. So as I've told you many times in the past week or two, it is really around taking 25,000 Chromebooks and finding ways to get those to our students as quickly as we can in safe manner, and that's what we've been working to do, is to take 25,000 Chromebooks that we have inside of our schools, direct them to students who might not have those at this time, might not have a device in their home, get them to them, get them out of our schools. And our schools have been fantastic with this, I want to say, because our schools have worked hard to do, whether it's 2-to-1 or 1-to-1 with technology. We challenged our schools and said we can't have them sitting in schools collecting dust during this time. We need to get those Chromebooks. Our principals stepped up and said, what can we do to help out? We've collected 25,000 Chromebooks. We've cleaned them to make sure they're safe. We've got them and we're prepared to get them out. And the second task force we put together, Dr. Kermit Belcher, the Chief Information Officer, really put a team together to say, how can we get these Chromebooks? How can we make sure they're safe, ready to go, kids can log in and begin this work right away? And that team has been working every single day to make that happen. We are ready to launch that on Monday. And I'd like to bring up Dr. Kermit Belcher to talk a little bit about the work that they've done around these Chromebooks.
Good morning. So 50 schools with the highest number of Chromebooks were identified. Building principals at those locations coordinated a team to move those devices to a central location. To ensure the safety of staff, parents, and students, Supply Services will deliver the Chromebooks to the United States Post Office, then will be shipped directly to the households. It is our mission to make sure our students who may be in need have access to the device first. We have developed a system to email our families who are on free and reduced lunch to request a Chromebook. Many of our families have access to a smartphone with email. This has been proven to be an effective way of reaching many families in the past. Other families that we do not have an email address, we will be reaching out directly, providing a phone number to call and encourage them to seek assistance if needed. Considerations will also be made for our English language learner students, as well as our students with special needs. If there are devices remaining, we will open up the option to all families, and a lottery will determine if a family is selected. This has been a major undertaking, and there have been so many people to thank who have worked to make this experience possible for our families. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Belcher. So just to hit a couple of the highlights on that, on Monday, actually this afternoon, our families that have been identified will be receiving an email that will give instructions for Monday and how they either reply to that email or click the link in order to potentially reserve one of these Chromebooks. And then secondly, there will be a phone number if they don't have access to those that they can call on Monday starting at 7:30 a.m. On Monday morning. We've implemented a whole lot of staff members who are coming to our, or not coming to our call center, they're actually doing it from home. So that was another technology thing that we had to figure out how we're going to have people do this work from home, but we've bridged that gap as well. And so we're going to have people call in if they need to, or click the link to reserve that, and they have till Tuesday at 5 p.m. To reserve that, and then by midweek next week we will be notifying families of their selection for a Chromebook, and we'll be sending those out as quickly as we can. And so we're proud of that. That's difficult and tough work. We'll be asking the families to return those Chromebooks to us and to the schools when we come back to school, when that occurs. We know that'll be at some point, but we'll be asking to return at that point. Or we'll be replacing those at the schools, because we don't want our schools to lose out on instruction next year and the digital opportunities they have for students. And then we obviously have the accessibility issue and connectivity for families, and that's a major divide in our community as well, and we're working to support that. And so we will be providing on our website options for families, whether that be Spectrum or whether that be other carriers that are providing opportunities for families. We've been pushing and working with various platforms, various companies to see what we could get for our families. And really what we are looking at, especially with our special education students in ECE, because our ECE plan for our students is very difficult without connectivity to provide virtual supports for kids, virtual ARC meetings. So right now we are working on a plan where we are going to provide up to 6,000 hotspots for our ECE families, and we will be announcing hopefully that early next week. The same way we're doing the Chromebook, in ways that we can provide these hotspots to our special education families, ECE students. We are working very closely with Mayor Fisher and Grace Simrall on his team, along with several foundations to help support that, so that we can hopefully provide hotspots to our ECE families. And maybe as we move down the road even more, we're looking at some possible federal funding from the stimulus bill that was earmarked for this type of work, and JCPS will be working hard to draw down those funds so that we could even possibly be providing more hotspots to students down the road for the next few months, so that we can have as many students have access to this platform as possible, along with supports and services for our families. So as you can see, I mean, the amount of work that has gone on to get this ready for our students and families has been immense. And I just can't say enough about the hard work that has taken place. And there is no doubt in a crisis situation, the team has come together And I know that we're going to be a better district when it's all said and done as the result of the work that we are doing. A couple of other things I want to highlight before I take questions. First of all, there's always a lot of questions about the end of the school year. When is the end of the school year going to be? Clearly, it's hard to answer that question specifically at that point, but I can tell you where we are right now, pending no other changes from the state. And I will say we're watching closely, interacting with Interim Commissioner Brown often, as superintendents are, and obviously following closely along with Governor Beshear as well. So this could change. But right now, the past 2 weeks, and including Monday, April 6th, which is going to be a professional development day for our staff, we will have missed 10 school days as a result of the coronavirus. If we add those on to the end of the year, our current last day of school would be June 11th. So with no other changes, the last day of school would be June 11th. However, and I want to highlight this, however, I will ask our board to forgive 4 days. So in JCPS, we actually go 5 full school days above the minimum number of hours required by statute. Earlier in the winter, we had a 2-hour delay, which comes off of that, so our board can forgive 4 school days. We will also be asking our board to allow us to go to school, whether that be NTI or traditional school, on Oaks Day, which I believe is May 1st, because we no longer have Oaks Day on that time. And then second of all, we will be asking our board once again to allow our students to go to school what was election primary day, because the election has been moved as well. So whether it's NTI or whether we're back in the traditional school setting, we will ask that we be allowed to go to those 2 school days and forgive 4, which would make our final day be Wednesday, June 3rd. So with no other changes and our board approving those changes to the calendar, our final school day would be Wednesday, June 3rd, and we will be asking our board to make those approvals shortly. But as you know, we are still closely watching, I don't know what that is, we are still closely watching our state and what's going on in our state to make sure that any changes. Clearly, it's going to be difficult to see us going back to school April 20th at this point with what's going on in the world. I'm not saying that's definite at this point, but we will be making and following that very closely to see how that goes. A couple other things I would like to report. Most important, well, not most importantly, but very importantly, once again, class of 2020, we have about 6,500 seniors in the class of 2020, and I know this is very difficult and challenging. I want to underscore once again our commitment to you and making sure that you have a commencement ceremony when it is safe for us to do that. I know there's a lot of questions around prom and the other things. We've directed schools. We're going to have to see when we are able to collect and gather again. Once we do that, we'll be making some announcements, but without a doubt, they have my commitment to making sure that whatever the time period is safe, that we have a commencement ceremony for each one of our schools. And then once again, I wanted to highlight the work that's being done at our emergency food sites. We saw the largest volume of meals served yet in the 2 weeks yesterday, more than 16,000 meals in one day. Last week we had over 50,000 meals. And so we are working very hard to make sure our staff is safe as well. And at the governor's recommendation, we have essentially almost nearly every single employee in this district now is working from home, which totals nearly 17,000 employees. And so we've, even in our operations department, we've implemented strategies to make sure that we can work from home and those employees can be on call if there are emergencies at school sites. But obviously that continues to be a challenge for us. But our nutrition workers, we also want to minimize contact, so we will be moving to a new schedule that is 3 days a week from 10 to 1. And so at those emergency sites, I want to reiterate that, that will be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And so children will get 4 meals. So we can provide up to 4 meals, which took a little bit of a state change, but children will get 4 meals on Monday and Wednesday and 2 meals on Friday. So families can come and get multiple meals at one time to avoid large amounts of interaction. And when does that begin? That will begin on Monday. So after Monday next week And moving forward, our meal sites will be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I'm sure we'll continue to have a great deal of participation in that program. And thanks again to all of those who are supporting that, whether they're working at the sites or whether delivering that food. I can't thank you enough. So as you can see, the work over the past 12 days has been immense, from the platform to the Chromebooks to the possible hotspots, to the curriculum work, to food. JCPS is doing everything that we possibly can to support our families and our kids. We look forward to this being over, because I know everybody is missing school. Talked to my daughter today. I never thought she'd really be, but she said she is really missing being at school. So I know our kids are missing school. Our families are missing having their kids to school. Our teachers, I know so many of them would love to be back in the classroom, and that's why they do this. But what we are going to do is continue to work to provide the best possible platform and supports for our kids so that they can be successful. And when we come back, whenever that might be, we are ready to jump right back into it. We know we're going to have to pick up a lot of new supports that maybe we didn't have before. So additional summer opportunities for kids when we do that. And then when we come back to school, we know we're going to have to meet the needs of our kids, because I have significant concern that is a possibility that we won't see our kids, all of our kids, from about March 13th until right August 15th, the start of school. And that's a major concern for us moving forward. But we'll meet the needs of our students and families, adjust, and continue to move on. And once again, as always, if families have questions, 313-HELP is available at any time for your support here at JCPS to help answer any questions. And as we move into NTI, I know it's going to be difficult and challenging, staff, students, and families, but we are here to work together to make sure that we meet the needs of our kids. And I do believe in the end we'll have one of the best NTI programs, whether that be in the state or the nation. So I thank you for being here, and I'm happy to take any questions that you have. Yes, sir. And one note, I have been given plenty of feedback that I need to repeat the questions because they can't hear them online, so I'm following Governor Beshear's lead, and I will repeat the question. Renee, tell me if I don't repeat the question. Yeah, so the question is around really around supports for students, that we have so many kids in need that are a challenge often, whether it be attendance to get to school, and my concern for students falling through the cracks. So high level of concern, without a doubt. For instance, and I've talked a lot about attendance on regular school days. We have about 30,000 students who are chronically absent. We have, in certain years, 55,000 students who miss 6 or more days a year, which is a point we've found to significantly impact achievement. And that can happen for a multitude of reasons. Attendance, I've talked about start of school time, but usually those things can also be around needed supports for kids. And so those are the kids we're significantly worried about. We're worried about kids who need these supports, who might not have it at home. We're worried about English language learners. We're worried about our special ed kids. We're worried about so many of our kids who get services that they need at our schools. And so very high level of concern. We're going to do the best we possibly can under the circumstances to meet the needs of our kids. And then when we return, we know we're going to have to make some significant changes to meet those needs. So there's a high level of concern, just like in many areas around our community. But our kids it's something that we're going to really have to address, do the best job we can now under the circumstances, and adjust moving forward. Yes, so there is some attendance, some state guidance on attendance that we have to have. And so right now the guidance we are getting is interaction with kids is considered present in that specific class or for that day. And so what they mandate right now is that students are communicated with once a week. And so a student turning in an assignment can be communication. Interacting with a teacher can be communication, whether that's email or phone call. But we want to far exceed once a week. Now, there will be challenges with that, but we have plenty of staff members that will be working, that their job will be communication, and so we're encouraging our schools that those students who may be in need is to try to contact them every single day, have someone reach out and contact them in one way. But that's why we're going to have a principle of over-communication if that's possible in this work. Yeah, so Kevin, the question is around the number of people that might be in need of connectivity, and do we know what that is, and have we had conversations with folks like Spectrum? So we've had a lot of those conversations. It's very difficult to say what that number is. So if we look at our comprehensive school survey from last year, we know that about 90% of our kids have some type of access. The hard part is a cell phone may be access to the internet. There may be limited data for a student or a family. A lot of the tools inside of our platform require a high level of data, amount of data. I'm not an expert on this. That's what I've been told. And how much a phone can lead to interaction. So we know a device like a Chromebook, an iPad, those type of things with high-speed internet is ideal for the work that is needed. So it's difficult to say exactly how many of our families need that. We talked a lot about was there a way to do a quick survey, and we found that difficult to do. So we'll have a lot more information, I think, once we roll out the need for Chromebooks. We're targeting 25,000. If we think we need to go to a phase 2, if we have more than that, we'll look to get back in and try to get some more to our families. And then hopefully we'll see on the hotspots as well. But we've had conversations with Spectrum and other carriers. I think the hard part about that is how many employees they have and the capacity they have to go implement those at a home in a quick turnaround. So I can't speak for them specifically. I think the best bet for us right now is hotspots as far as trying to get access to homes, and that's what we're working on now, and hopefully have some announcements around that next week. Yeah, so there's no doubt. I mean, and I think we often talk about. Oh, thank you. Speak to parents who have not been involved before, and what my message would be to them. And so, what I find usually is every single parent is really committed to their child's success. Sometimes it's just a matter of knowing how to engage and how to get involved. And so we constantly and consistently work on that. And now it's even more difficult. So parents at home, grandparents at home, caregivers are going to be the ones trying to provide the supports for kids. And so clearly, number one, I would say if they can get on the platform, watch the videos, look at the supports, sit down with their child at a computer and go through the Google Classroom and work together on that. Call for support. So we're going to have plenty of people that can provide that support. And we are really working to make sure we get everybody empowered to help support families. And so additional people answering phones, technical support, those type of things. And then interacting with the teachers. I think that is critical. So whether that be called, we'll have opportunities to interact with the school virtually, email and other things, and also opportunities to call the school. And it wouldn't be physically at the school, but calling staff members at the school. But the most important thing I can say is interact with the child's teachers and make sure that they get guidance from the specific teachers. Okay. Don't remind me to repeat them, though. So, yeah, the hard part for us, well, Mandy, let me repeat that. So that teachers will be providing assignments and then the choice boards being secondary. So we are, yes, choice boards, teachers will be providing online instruction and assignments, and so teachers have the ability to do that. Next week, we will have choice boards for paper copies for kids that they can pick up. The following week, we plan on increasing the amount of assignments that can be given to students beyond choice boards. So we want to give multiple weeks to families who don't have access to that. And that will really be around lessons and assignments that we are putting together that will support math, reading, science, and social studies, and the core curriculum. We have really thought about ways that we could tailor that to each individual school, but we find that really challenging right now. So we're going to have some district-wide support at each grade level, K1, 2, 3, that parents can pick up for multiple weeks of assignments at a feeding site, and then we're going to work on ways they can submit that back to their teachers and school in order to get credit for doing that work. So it's a combination of the two, but a huge challenge for us that presents from a large district that we're all doing this is how do you individualize paper copies based on 155 schools? And we can't do that, so we are going to have to provide some pretty strong curricular packages for families to do at home. Question is, has Spectrum shared with numbers of how many families they've served? No, I haven't had that discussion with how many families they've served. But I think just like everybody else, to my understanding, there's safety concerns with a lot of people being out interacting, their technicians interacting in households. I can't speak for them, I don't know that, but we want to give that support and those numbers to families and some other providers. We don't have any particular support of one provider. I think what this is definitely doing, and talking to Grace Simmerall at the mayor's office, this digital divide is pretty big in our community and amongst all communities across America. And I think you've seen a larger district or two even say they're not going to provide any of this NTI type work for kids just because of that divide. But we felt this was very critical that we continue supporting our kids with instruction. But that's why we've turned a little bit more to the hotspot thing, because if we can get hotspots and get them sent to families and they can hook them up quickly, then there isn't that interaction. We hope to have that announcement next week. Mm-hmm. So the question is about funding, how we'll do funding with the hotspots. It's still up in the air. We've got several options, so that could be a combination of local foundations. It could be an option, it could be potential for some Metro funding. It could be some JCPS funding as well. And then obviously the developments around the federal stimulus bill could also provide options for us. We don't know how quickly that will be. That's got to pass, I believe, today. But it would be it's a potential to be a combination of all of those to support our ECE special ed students. Yep. One Chromebook per family. So why question is around why we chose one Chromebook per family. Clearly, we have 100,000 students, and over 60% of those students are free and reduced lunch. So there possibly could be more need for Chromebooks, more students for need than we have for Chromebooks. And so I think our decision was based upon if we could get one in every house that needs that and has connectivity, that would give students an opportunity to be on the platform and interact with their teachers every day. We know that's not ideal. We know that if there's 3 or 4 kids in a family and having to share one device, that makes it challenging. But we also know us providing a Chromebook and possibly connectivity is going above and beyond what I think almost any other district is doing. Not at this, or there are plans to purchase additional at this time. Right now, our plans are not to purchase additional ones at this time. It's a possibility, but I think what we're looking at is how long it's taking to get them in and go through that. All of that process is a big challenge for us. I don't know how long NTI is going to go. You know, we've been given, I think the message out there is prepare for about 6 weeks of NTI, and then we'll see where we are at that point. And so, you know, we're really focusing our attention on purchasing Chromebooks on the back end if they don't come back to us in time and we don't have such a time crunch in getting them back.
But are there any plans for teachers to contact families or to talk to parents about helping them out with lessons and those sorts of things?
Yeah, so the question is around whether the plans for teachers to contact families to support in curriculum and in the lessons. And without a doubt, I mean, our guidance to schools is to communicate as much as possible. So we want to have teams at schools that call families and kids to ensure they have the supports they need. And then we want teachers interacting with kids on a regular basis and their families through the platforms we have on Google to ensure that the kids are understanding what they're working on, the supports they need. I said at the last press conference, nothing replaces face-to-face instruction. Kids being in front of a teacher is the most important thing that can happen. And so nearly impossible to replace that, in my opinion, but we're going to do everything we can to communicate with families and support them.
Dr. Pollio, we're getting some questions from some reporters who are watching the live stream. You've answered a bunch of them, but one was, and this may be more for Dr. Coleman, can you describe how this will work for students with IEPs who need interventions not conducive to remote instruction?
Yeah, well, I think that, I guess they heard that.
Yeah, they should have.
So, you know, it's a huge challenge. There is no doubt about it. I mean, there is no perfect plan for replacing the resources that a child has at the school and in the classroom, whether that's English language services, whether that's ECE special ed services, or any other supports that we provide a child. There is no perfect way to get this done in a brand new online instruction. But what we do know are most of the ECE services, if not all of them, we need to complete virtually. So whether that's the support services, the occupational therapy, the speech therapy, things like that, whether it's the ARC meeting, which is bringing together the experts on that child to make decisions about the supports that they need, or whether that's about implementing their IEP, their individual education plan, or their 504 plan, we're going to have to do that virtually. And so if an ECE student doesn't have a device and accessibility, then that's a major problem. And so that's become our focus with ECE students, is to ensure that every single ECE student that doesn't have a device and connectivity, that we specifically provide that for them. So the question is how many have these services, and is the plan to provide those services online, is that, or virtually? Yeah, so I know ECE students, those that have an IEP, are around 13,000 in the district. I don't know if we have 504 numbers. I can't specifically speak to how many those are. We would have to get those to you. But yes, our goal is to provide as many of those services as we possibly can to our students.
Employees during these time off contract COVID-19. Has there been any word from the health department about JCPS employees who have gotten ill with COVID-19?
So the question is, any JCPS employees that we know of that have tested positive for COVID-19? At this point, no. Very fortunately to our JCPS community, we have not gotten any word that a student or staff member has tested positive. We know the nature of this virus also means that often you don't know for many days. And so we're thankful at this point that we haven't, but we'll continue to watch and monitor that.
Do you have a sense of which area of learning
So the question is, which subject area is the most challenging to teach this way? You know, I don't have a sense of that. I know our elective teachers, they're going to have to be a lot more creative. I think there's more supports that are built in around math, English, science, and social studies that we see things like Study Island and Edmentum that our teachers use that have supports around math, English, science, and social studies. That does not mean that it's easy to teach that virtually. I want to repeat that. Teaching is hard enough as it is. When you bring 25 kids in front of you in a classroom, teaching is one of the most difficult jobs that there is out there. And now doing it virtually on top of that, when you're not able to bring the kids together once every few days, even compounds that who knows how many times. So, you know, I want to reiterate that teaching anything is challenging. You know, I think those supports around the so many electives that we provide, whether that be high school around career and tech ed, music, art, all the additional classes that we have in elementary schools, you know, I think providing those supports is going to be interesting. You know, things like music teachers that still want to provide music instruction for their kids, and maybe the instruments, you know, are not with the child at this time. And so finding ways to do that kind of thing could be interesting and difficult, but I think it's all, every single area is challenging as it stands.
One more question from a few related to high school students, which I think are important, so if I could get those in, that'd be great. As far as kids that were sort of working through a transition readiness pathway, and obviously with then the timing of reduced certification,
Mm-hmm.
and what is the status?
So the question is for students in pathways, especially academies of Louisville, who are working towards a certification and have to take an assessment to be certified. What's the status of that? You know, I'm happy to report once again that we have already surpassed our transition readiness numbers, class of 2020 compared to 2019. It says a lot about the academies of Louisville model. So we were beyond that. The disappointing part are so many kids. We had a goal of hitting 75% of our graduates this year being transition ready, as compared to about 54 or 55 last year, so an increase of about 20%. I think, Mandy, a lot of that is still up in the air. So whether, you know, they're talking about AP assessments being done online this year, we're still waiting for most. These are not assessments that we produce. So on all these assessments, whether it be IB, whether it be AP, or these CTE type certification assessments, we'll be waiting to hear some guidance on that, and especially if we come back to school. So there's a lot of things up in the air with our employees, whether that, well, students being around assessment. We know we're not having K-Prep this year. But AP and career and tech ed assessments, things like evaluations that we always do with staff members. Are those dates going to be pushed back? Are they going to be eliminated? So I don't have an exact answer for you now. We hope to support our kids, and if we get back in school, then we hope to be able to give those to them quickly. This is a record, by the way, of questions I've, right? Go ahead, I'm kidding. Is exactly right. I'm taking his lead here and answering a lot of questions. So good news is we found that kids are doing that right now. So, I mean, they still have access to, are we at Edgenuity or back to Edmentum now? Edmentum. We were at Edgenuity and we moved to Edmentum, just another platform. But kids that have been working on credit recovery online, and we've got a lot of kids doing that, we found they've continued to do that work even during these 2 weeks. And so really striving towards graduation. And so we're going to reach out to them and encourage them to keep doing it so they can keep on with their work on credit recovery, or if they're in Jefferson County High School, an e-school version, they can continue to do that like they've always done that. They won't necessarily have the in-person supports, but they can have it virtually. But that's been happening, and we're going to continue to push for that. There's a lot of disagreement over that, and here's a challenge that we have, grading. So how are we going to grade this when the potential will have a lot of students who might not be involved in this virtual learning? And then we have the paper copies that don't necessarily align exactly with the online platform. So we're giving some guidance on grading. One of the things we want, first of all, is, it's really important that during this crisis time that we don't have kids harmed significantly from this, that we don't have a significant number of students who don't graduate who are on track to graduate. We don't have a significant number of kids who are retained who are on track to move on. And so that's a big part of supporting kids. We've had some discussions about the pass-fail. There are some issues that come into that, specifically with seniors, especially when you talk about pass-fail, and even all high school kids. GPA, college admission, keys money, all of these things roll into this. So we're really going to continue to need some guidance from the state on this, and we're in conversations with them, as all superintendents are. And I think over the next week or two, we'll have some clarity on what that'll look like, but right now we don't have that. Thank you, guys, and stay safe, and we'll be back shortly to give more updates. Thank you.